I'm not sure if this is somebody's winter range or these are wild horses. There are glyph panels all over this country, but Newspaper Rock is worth the side trip if you're passing by on the highway. It's set down in a wonderful canyon where you can tell lots of folks have camped, and the panel itself covers quite a range of time, including figures mounted on horsemen which would postdate the Spanish arrival in North America. Last time I was staying at this creek crossing here, I was on the other side watching a flash flood filled with all kinds of mud and debris come coursing through here. That time we had to reroute 100 miles out of our way just to get out of this country. It can be very treacherous back on these roads when it gets wet. Right now everything seems dry, so I hope I'll be able to get out to where I'm headed. Took me half a tank of gas to get here, so I'm going to go on ahead and top off the tank with at least this one before I hit the trail. I'm thinking this canyon ought to do pretty nicely. I don't know how long I'll keep them on, but this flipping slope is an accident waiting to happen without my spikes. Well, that ended up being a couple hundred vertical feet anyway. I was happy to have the spikes the entire way. But it is time to pull them. I really dig seeing these little colonizer trees sitting in this north-facing aspect here. In fact, this whole canyon really has some neat plant life in it that I'm not accustomed to. It's totally rare for me to be moving this late, but since I'm in a national park, I was trying to make my way to this established camp area that I'm supposed to stay at. Turns out that their camp areas are right on the floor there of the canyon, which I'm not going to do. It's a good 10 degrees warmer up on this ledge where I am, you know, maybe 50 yards from the established site. So this is where I'll be spending the night.
The darkest night would shine if you would come to me soon.
With the advent of daylight, I've found a spot more to my liking over here, and it turns out that I'm in pretty good company. This is an amazing little desert oasis here, which of course is why that cabin is back there. I expect this is water year-round, very reliably. For the time being, I'm happy to use it myself to fill up my canteens. Because this trip is an out and back anyway, I'm going to end up spending 2 nights in this same campsite. And today I'll take a long walk down valley and see what there is to see. This whole plateau coming off of the Manti Mountains is a huge cultural area. Used to be lots of folks living in this country doing agriculture here in the bottoms. And in fact, I've already spotted right behind me on the cliff here a little bit of a archaeological site. If I don't see anything more intriguing down valley, I'll check that out when I get back up here. But for the time being, let's go see what there is to see. Well, that didn't take very long. These folks lived in these valleys, as nearly as we can tell, in relative peace and stability for a couple thousand years. There were two things that ended that. First of all, when they were living here, it was a lot warmer and wetter in this country than it is now. And then when the climate changed and became cooler and drier in the early 1300s, 1400s, it stressed their culture quite a bit. The other thing that happened was the Athabascan language speakers, the people who would later become the Navajo and the Apache, came down from the north and started warring with these people and displacing them. And these people, the remnants of these people, got pushed down into the pueblos, Acamataos, all the Rio Grande River Valley pueblos. You know, and then of course the Navajo and the Apache were displaced by the Spaniards, who were in turn displaced by the Americans. History of the world. But for a long period of time, there was a lot of good living done here. Lots of people lived and died well. When you come to one of these, this one's not particularly remote, but some of the more remote ones, you'll find corn cobs still laying on the ground. You'll find pottery, maybe larger pieces, certainly shards. Don't be a jackass and pack those things out. And if you are that guy, just pray that I'm not up on a rim rock watching you. There are people who have found shards here and have just placed them out, set them on these ledges here, which is, I think, a nice and respectful tribute. You can see it. You can see what was done here. Nobody needs to carry it out. So, you know, these people lived well. Respect the living they did. And when you visit, you know, take note of the surroundings and spend a little bit of time thinking about these people's path through this environment here. I followed a deer trail up to this little saddle to contemplate the country, eat a little bit of food, and lo and behold, here's more habitation. I just completed what will, without a doubt, go down as one of the hardest and most important tasks of my life. It's awful nice just to sit here and watch the light play across the rocks over there. Well, it's good to be back in camp. I injured my left foot last week training. It's given me a lot more trouble than I expected. Of course, tomorrow I've got some walking to do, but I'll let that take care of itself. I think it's a little bit colder this morning. Either way, I'm going to be happy to get that hot liquid inside me. It was really easy for me to imagine folks from the local settlements hanging out up on the point there where I spent the night. Lo and behold, as I was headed down the hill where there's obviously been some erosion here, I ran across all of these pot shards. Looked like they're from the same pot, and of course it could have been anything, but I like to imagine some of the teenagers sneaking up there with whatever kind of liquor they brewed and having a good time of an evening. I took note of these on the way in. I'm fairly confident these figures are modern. The handprints could kind of go either way, although I do lean towards modern for those as well. That is a common figure though on a lot of the pictographs around here, is those reverse handprints. I normally prefer to be descending on my last day, but in this case I gotta climb all the way up to the rim underneath that butte. Little ways to go yet. And so it begins. At this point, I'd much rather look down than look up at where I gotta go still. Last little pitch. So this was one of the quietest, most peaceful places I've ever spent time in the backcountry. Even the coyotes weren't making any noise. There was a lot of lion signs, so I suspect the coyotes were staying quiet to avoid getting eaten by lions. Just a guess. The funny thing is, I didn't really make it that far into this canyon, but even so, I felt like I went too fast. There were so many side canyons, so many deer trails I saw heading off into little pockets I couldn't even see, so many hanging bowls you could climb into. I mean, man, you could spend a lifetime down there. So maybe I'll be back at some point. I'd love to do a through hike of the canyon with a car at each end, but for now it's time to get home to my babies.